Well, what's up, boys and girls? Welcome to another Friday Live at 3. This is actually going to be my last one for the year. Yep, I'm going to take a few days off during in between Christmas and New Year's. So this will be it. Although I do have something to share with y'all later. We will be doing a New Year's Day live event. I'll explain more about that in a few minutes. So before we get into any questions, of course, they've given me a printout of stuff, of information that I'm supposed to share with you before we jump into the Q&A section. So let's get that out of the way. Okay, we want to remind you about our big year-end sweepstakes, where we're giving away, of course, that modified Can-Am Outlander that I've spent the last few months building, that we've set up as a swamp buggy. And you can use special bonus code JTLive, all in one word, to get an additional 100 entries. But you need to go ahead and do that today because, well, that's a personal code from me to you and those that have joined us for the live here at 3. All you have to do is you can find the entry form in the description of this video, and Hank will put it in the chat as well. You can also go to Partzilla.com and click on the banner at the top of the page. I mean, we're making it really easy for you to get in and do this. Now, as far as all the modifications I did to it, it's a pretty extensive list. It starts off with a snorkel kit, but that also required me to go ahead and move the radiator, and we actually pretty much converted it over to an XMR version of the Can-Am Outlander. We also did a DynoJet grip and rip clutch kit along with their PowerVision 4 programmer. I was just working with it yesterday, and it's a really cool little device. Now, we also upsized the tires with Partzilla, and we did a full underbody protection using aluminum skid plates all the way down. I think we also did, in fact, I know we did a Yoshimura exhaust just to top things off. So I'm pretty proud of it. It turned out well. And now, well, it's time for it to find a home. So you need to go enter to win this, because I believe we're drawing the winner sometime at the beginning of the year. But I'm sure that's in the contest rules. So head on over to the link in the description, and once again, use code JTLive, all one word, to get an additional 100 bonus points. Now, if the Can-Am isn't enough, you need to be watching our new parts day, is what they're billing it as, on live stream on New Year's Day, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're giving away all kinds of stuff, including a total of $3,500 in $500 increments to spend however you want at the Partzilla.com site. So if you want clothes, tires, parts, whatever, even new parts for, you're going to love this part, your car. Well, that's the other option we need to tell you about. Partzilla.com is now selling automotive parts. And honestly, I'm really excited about this. And we're going to have them for just about every brand you can think of. I went and looked at the site and checked out the list, and it's over 40 different car brands. So it doesn't matter if it's a Ford, a Ferrari, a BMW, a Toyota. Chances are we're going to have what you need to keep your car up and running. So pretty much if it burns gas and rolls, gets you somewhere, we've got parts for it. So you need to go check it out. So you know what else that means? That means I'm going to get to start do how-to videos on cars in here. And matter of fact, I'm staring at patient 0 right now. You want to see which one it is? If y'all watch me enough, you probably already know, but I'll just swing around the camera real quick and show you project number 1 for the automotive channel of Partzilla. Be right back. Well, she has already wiggled her way into the studio. What you're looking at is my personal 2002 BMW M5. What am I going to be doing to it? Well, if you know anything about these particular cars, you know that they, connecting rod bearings are, they're a bit of a consumable. So it is time for that project to get done. So I'm going to dive under there probably about the time we finish up this live and start that process this time with the cameras rolling. So it's going to be fun. I don't get to bring many of my personal projects into the studio, so this is going to be good. All right, now to business. We're going to go through any questions that got sent in during the week or that I may not have been able to fully answer last week. And then if anybody sends us in anything while we're doing the live, I will answer that as well, or do my best to, or at least get it in the pipeline to get it figured out. Sound like a deal? Well, let's get into it. Emilio Rodriguez, 2755. When putting jets back in, do I have to do a certain number of turns or just screw it until it stops? Well, that's a bit of a loaded question. Depends on which jet you're talking about. Now, if you're talking about your pilot or your main jet where it's going into the seat, well, then yes, it goes all the way down in its seats. Now, if you're talking about the air fuel, which is pretty much a jet, well, that's definitely dependent on turns. And what you would need to do before you remove it is turn it all the way in, count your turns until it seats lightly. At that point, you can remove it, clean the carburetor, and then when you're putting it back together, you just need to make sure you go all the way in and back it out that same number of turns. Usually, that a good starting point, if you don't know, if you forget to count how many turns it is somewhere in between 1.5 and 2.5. So put it at 2, and that will at least get you in the ballpark to where you can fine tune it later. RS Scrappy. Hello, I've got an 09 Honda CBR 600. The guy said something about the previous owner did something with the headlights, and now the bike won't start. It turns over but won't start. It says it needs an ignition, but before I buy anything, I was hoping for feedback. I was just going to hotwire it, but he said that it would. Now, taking an outside guess here, I know that on the 600 and the 1000, there is a tip over sensor on the right side of the fairing. If this was the fairing, it's about right here. And if he went in there to do something to the headlights, there's a possibility that he may have unplugged this tip over sensor, or he may have moved it to where it's not in the right position, because its primary function is to cut fuel to the machine. So theoretically, it would still turn over, but it's not going to start because it's not getting fuel. And that would be because this sensor has been activated. So before you start ordering parts, I would get in and find this little device. It's a black box, maybe like this, about 3/4 of an inch thick. I think it only has 4 wires going into it. So just find it, make sure it's still mounted and plugged in, and then go from there. If it's something beyond that, well, then you just kind of start picking apart your system as far as the different sensors and different fail safes that keep it from starting, i.e. your neutral switch, or maybe your clutch, or maybe even your side stand. But since you mentioned your headlights, chances are that that little tip over sensor has been disturbed. All right, Midwest Mike. If I put a battery shutoff switch on the positive battery cable on my Razor XP1000, will it kill the engine if I switch it off while it's running? mess up the CPU or something? Any ideas? Yeah, it'll definitely shut it off. But what you run the risk of, especially if there's a heavy load on the charging system, your voltage regulator, rectifier, and stator, when it gets that that sudden just shut off, it doesn't have anywhere to send that juice, and that can actually damage your alternator. Now, I've never seen this happen on a side-by-side because, well, honestly, I've never had anybody put a disconnect switch on one, but I have seen that this happen on the marine side where you've got, two marine batteries and you've got a selector shut-off switch for it, and that's a big no-no, is to turn it as if the engine is running at that time. But would it damage your ECU? Probably not, but it's definitely going to shut it off. That's for certain. All right. Michael Engel, what is the symptom of the stator going bad? Well, step number one, you're not charging correctly. It could either be overcharging or undercharging, but that's more a regulator part of it. But if your stator is going bad, it's not charging, and you've tested your regulator rectifier, at least with a voltometer that can do diodes, and determine that it's functioning. The best way to determine if a stator has gone bad is to do you can do an ohm test, but you're just kind of hoping at that point, because no matter how good your voltometer is, it's really hard to pick up on a 0.1 deviation on your resistance load. I mean, most times when you put your lines together just to zero your meter, it's going to read 0.1, maybe even 0.2. And that's exactly how much you're trying to read to determine if your stator windings are in good shape. Now, if you go across your windings and they're completely open, well, then you know. But if they're shorted, that can be a little bit more difficult to really get a read on. The best way I can tell you to do it is to do a live reading if your machine is running. And that's just, you can unplug it from the voltage regulator rectifier, and you want to look at, it's usually a 3-phase winding, and you just want to take an AC voltage reading as it's sitting there idling. Most of the time you're going to be in that 25 to 35 volt range AC, going from phase to phase. And that will be a very positive indication, no pun intended, as to whether or not your stator is working or not. But the symptom is, simply that your machine is not charging as it should. Rail rotor, excuse me. Is it possible to overfill the rear differential? The short answer is, well, yes. I had to pour almost an entire bottle of oil, 8 ounces, before it came out the weep hole. I'm running a 2015 Rancher. Well, you're fine, because that's how much it holds. It's somewhere in between 7.5 and 8. So you are good to go. All right, last one from the send in this week. Pennsylvania Ghost Diaries. My solenoid is good, my starter is fine, but it still won't engage the solenoid when I push the start button. Could it be a relay? Well, that's pretty much what your solenoid is. It is a relay. What you need to determine is if that solenoid is being triggered by your start switch. And that should be fairly simple, depending. You did give me a year, make, and model, but most of your solenoids on the Power Sports, they're usually a round device, and you see where the battery comes in, and then the starter wire connects to it, and then you're just going to have a pair of wires. One's going to be a ground, and the other is going to be that start circuit, which is a low amperage 12 volts that gets sent over to it. When you push the start button, that's the wire that needs to be active. Now, if you're telling me that you're sure that your solenoid is good, no, there's not another relay in there. It's going to be dependent upon that starting circuit that's whichever make and model is designed for that start button. Now, you also want to keep in mind, depending on your make and model, if you've got an interrupt switch or an interrupt circuit that is going to keep that from spinning over, such as a neutral switch, a clutch switch, or a gear position switch, that is going to inhibit that circuit from sending a signal to the solenoid itself. So that's where you're going to need to head. All right. Everything looking good, guys? Yeah. All right. So now let's answer any questions that we have for this session. Ben Scott asks, nice car. Did you pay under 40K? Oh, yeah. This car needed a lot of work. I've owned it for almost 4 years, or a little over 4 years now. And I basically stole it. But when I bought it, it had 231,000 miles on the odometer. And the Carfax said it had like 7 owners. So this party girl had been, she'd been around the circuit for a while. You catch my drift. But slowly, I'm working through each and every one of its issues. Because when I went to go look at the car, where did I pick it up at? I think it was Jacksonville. I bought my own set of ramps, of course, and crawled under it. And it was leaking every single fluid from every single location, to put it mildly. So it's needed, complete refresh on, sealing it back up, all the suspension, the pivot points, just everything. And I guess it's about 3 months ago I did the timing chain, which is a double row thing that's huge. I mean, it was scary. I don't get scared often, but when I finished doing the timing on that car after I rebuilt the Vanos, which is the variable the valve timing in it, that's the first time I've ever been truly scared to turn the key. Because with that Vanos system, especially, you can rotate the engine over by hand all day long, and it's going to present itself as being fine. But after you start it, and the Vanos starts adjusting, if you didn't have it just right, that's when you bend all your valves. I've seen more than one YouTube video where that happened, and it's kind of hard to watch. But yeah, the next thing is going to be doing for me, the connecting rod bearings. And after that, we can actually start putting some miles on it, some more miles. Eventually, it'll be a 0-mile car for me because I will have rebuilt every single thing in it. But yeah, that's just how I roll. Now, I know what you're thinking. What did I pay for it? I guess it really doesn't matter. Only paid $9,000. It's like I said, I knew what I was getting, but I still think I stole it at that point. All right, looks like we've only got one other question unless Hank drops something else on me. F12 Phantom 1 asks, he has a 2007 R1, had a vacuum screw stuck, replaced it, but adjusted all 4 of them from a tutorial online. I don't have a vacuum gauge tester. So should I go to a professional? It feels laggy. I wouldn't go to a pro yet. And I don't have one in my drawer at the moment, but Motion Pro makes a vacuum gauge that's not that expensive. And you can do this yourself because that's exactly what they're going to do. You sit there with the machine at idle and you're looking at these 4 lines going up, and all you're doing is just evening them up across the board at a certain RPM. And don't be afraid to do that. I mean, if you went in that far, that you can do a sync on these. I mean, they sync very similarly to just having a regular 4 carburetor setup. It's basically just 4 throttle bodies. That's all we're dealing with. 4 butterfly valves. So we just want to get those set even. So yes, if they're not set evenly, then she is going to be a little bit quote laggy. So I could definitely see that being an issue. All right. Well, we just had one more comment, and that was from Ivan Velez. He says, love watching your videos. They are so helpful. Well, Ivan, we appreciate you watching our videos, and appreciate everybody that comes in here and watches our videos and hopefully buys a few parts from us now and again. Really looking forward to getting into this automotive side. As you can tell, I'm pretty damn excited about it, and I think it's going to be good. In fact, I know it's going to be good. All right, guys. Well, reminder, we are in the middle of giving away that unit that I'm staring at on the other side of this camera. and that is that Can-Am Outlander that I've done so much work on in the last couple of months. It is time to send it off to a new home. So, well, I don't know if you were watching last week, the person that won the little KLX 110, what was his name? I think it was Rob. I've already forgotten. I'm bad. I can remember my tag from 1981, but I can't remember somebody's name I met 30 seconds ago. At any rate, he came by with his wife, and they picked it up. For once, we actually gave away something where somebody lived within, a couple of 100 miles from us. But who knows? Maybe somebody on the Southeast will end up with that machine, and you can come pick it up, and I can take you for a tour of this facility. It's impressive, and I can easily say that. But hey, somebody in California wins it, that's fine too. We'll just get it shipped out to you. So head over to partzilla.com/Can-Am to enter to win, or you can just go to partzilla.com, and I believe it's the second page that starts on the main landing page. All right, guys. Well, like I said, this is going to do it for me for the year. Although we will have that New Year's live event starting at 11 a.m. on New Year's Day. But I will not be answering any questions. That's just going to be me reading off the screen, giving away a bunch of stuff, and then playing some videos during in between each session, which I think is every 30 minutes is when we give away more prizes, and they increase as we go through I think it's the whole thing's like 2.5 hours. Well, everybody have a great weekend, a great holiday, Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. All I can ask is that you just be kind to your fellow man or woman out there. So once again, thank you for spending a little time with us today and every day here at Partzilla when we do these lives at 3. And we will see you in the next year. Y'all take care.